Shalom from Karen Biavna. This week I'd like to share with you a Dvar Torah that I heard from my son, Rav Aaron. There is a common phenomenon that when you have an individual that's involved in great things, wonderful accomplishments, he'll have critics, have individuals that are not comfortable with what he's doing. And as great as those accomplishments are, the critics will always find something negative to say. No, I'm not talking about our Rosh Memshala Binyamin Netanyahu. I'm talking about Pinchas. The end of last week's Parsha, after the amazing story of Bilam that ends up blessing the Jewish people, the Parsha ends on a terrible low. It's a tragic situation in which the Jewish people are involved in Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, and there are thousands dying in the Mageifa. And Pinchas, in his act of a positive kanoos, saves the day and prevents the Mageifa from killing more individuals that might have been killed if not for his action. And in fact, the pasuk praises Pinchas, but before the pasuk is miaches Pinchas to Aharon, Rashi writes that those that criticized him, that said, well, his grandfather Putiel Yisro was feeding animals for Avodah Zarah, so who does this fellow think he is that could go ahead and kill a Nasi Shevet Misrael? So despite his wonderful accomplishment, there were those that criticized him. One of the lessons to be learned over here is that one needs to do what's right because it's right, without being overly sensitive to what others are going to say. There's a famous drush on a pasuk in Tehillim. Pasuk in Tehillim, Kuf Vav, pasuk Tes Zayin says, "V'kan'u leMoshe b'machaneh la'Aaron kadosh Hashem." The simple reading of the pasuk is referring to the story of Korach, that in that event, in that uprising against Moshe and Aaron, people criticized Moshe, criticized Aaron, but there are those that interpret the pasuk in the following fashion. Moshe, generally speaking, was to be found in the Beis Medrash, learning Torah, teaching Torah. Aaron, on the other hand, was often found amongst the Jewish people, making shalom ben adam lachavero ben ish lishto. So when it came to criticizing Moshe, people would say, the pasuk says, "V'kanu Moshe b'machaneh." Why is Moshe all the time the Beis Medrash? He should be b'machaneh. He should be amongst the people. He should be more of a chevraman. When it comes to Aaron, that was involved with the people, that was all the time speaking to the people, trying to bring peace amongst the people, people would come along. Then his critics, the critics of Aaron, would say, Aaron kadosh Hashem. He's meant to be holy. He's meant to be spending all his time just in the Mishkan. What's he doing? Mingling with the people. So whatever you do, people are going to criticize. The Chavas Talmidim points out that a person that's oversensitive to what others have to say, that's always looking over his shoulder, that's always listening out to hear what others are saying about him, is not a free person. He doesn't have any independence. He's living his life based on others. One is meant to do what's right because it's right. There is a mashal, a story that's told of an individual traveling with his son. The individual was riding a donkey and his young son was walking along. And they come across somebody and somebody says, "Hey, that's not right that your son, your young son, who's weaker than you, should have to walk and you're riding on the donkey." So the fellow, he decided, okay, I'll have my son ride the donkey and he'd walk. Then they come across, after continuing, they come across somebody else. Someone says, "Hey, what sort of kibbud av is that? That's not right that they criticize the son. That's not right that the father is walking and just the son is riding the donkey." So they decided, okay, they have also the son and also the father riding the donkey. They continue a bit and somebody says, "Hey, that's cruel to the donkey. The donkey should have to carry two people." So the father, the son, they both walked beside the donkey. They come across somebody else and they said, What a waste of energy, having 3 people walking. So the only alternative left is the father and son. They started carrying the donkey. So hey, whatever you do, you're not going to satisfy everybody. So you need to do what's right because it's right. You need to do what's right because of what God tells you to do. And if in fact you do that, then hopefully you'll be motzei chen at the end of the day, b'nei Elokim, but not only b'nei Elokim, motzei chen b'nei Elokim v'Adam. Have a wonderful Shabbos.